Welcome to Hunter Highlights. I'm Toby Porcelain and this is Interviews with TP. It's a bumpy road to the top in this sport, but for those who dare win, and win big. Brendon Clark knows all about that, having tasted the highs and lows of the grueling PBR circuit. Though despite the bumps and bruises along the way, Clark is still hungry for the big bucks, in more ways than one. Brendon, thanks for joining me on Hunter Highlights. From the ranch in California back to the farm in Morpeth, there's been a lot go on since you left here in 2003.
Yeah, a lot's been on. Seen a lot of places and done a lot of flying. Spent a lot of money, that's usually what it is, but it's been a lot of fun. It seems like it was only yesterday that I left here and with a big dream in mind to see whether I was actually good enough to be one of the best bull riders in the world. And I was lucky enough that everything I worked for ended up paying off pretty quickly, but it has been a long time, 9 years now. So I still luckily I get to come home every once in a while, a couple of times a year, and meet up with everyone, so I'm still having fun at it.
So you do very much relish your time when you do come home?
Yeah, definitely. Try and catch up with as many people as I can that I was friends with or family, and try and get around and still do some stuff and see them. It's really hard to see everybody when you're not here for too long, and some of the trips I'm here aren't very long at all. I might only be here a week, or this trip in particular is only 10 days, so it's not a lot of time to be able to get around and see everyone, as well as get to, obviously I'm competing as well while I'm here, so it's definitely better when you're here. I've had a month earlier on in the year here, so it was in the winter time, so it was more time to have a lot of fun then, but this is more like a bit of a business trip.
You mentioned that you are competing while you are home. Tell us about that.
Well, we've got a bull riding in Tamworth, a PBR event in Tamworth this weekend on the 26th, I think it is, Saturday the 26th, and it's definitely going to be a great event. If it's anything like the rest of the events we had this year in Townsville, Brisbane, Newcastle and Sydney, it's going to be a sellout, and very best bull riders from Australia, and I think there's about five from the US and Canada coming, so it's going to be obviously the best competition that we have here in Australia, and it's going to be a lot of fun. The bulls are getting a lot better than what they have been, earlier on in the time when I first went to the States. So it's a credit to the stock contractors for finding ways of being able to get better bulls, and it's made the competition level go up. So there's plenty of money up for grabs, and I'm definitely ready to get some of it.
Moving on to the sport of bull riding, in your mind, is it a sport or an extreme sport?
Well, compared to all the other extreme sports out there, I suppose you'd have to call bull riding an extreme sport, because it's more extreme than everything else out there, and it's proved that time in and time out. You only got to go to an event one time and sit and watch it for a couple of bulls, and you're going to see something really extreme happen. The good thing about bull riding is that it's no matter what you want to call it, a sport or an extreme sport or whatever it is, the good thing about bull riding is that no matter how many times you go watch, you're never going to see the same thing over and over again. So unlike other sports where you might be watching the same people out there doing the same tricks and doing the same sort of thing, but in bull riding, because you're basically competing on a wild animal, you don't really have any way of predicting what's going to happen. I think that's what the excitement of the sport is.
Do you ever get intimidated by the size of the bulls?
No, I don't really get intimidated by them. It's something you learn really young, from a young age, is that they're all going to be bigger than you, no matter whether you're obviously riding a calf or all the way up through your bull riding career. So things like the size of them and how big their horns are, or how crazy they might be, are things you learn along the way in your career that you've got to try and block out and not let it get into your mind too much. But it's all part of it. If you're worried about that in the sport of bull riding, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Your involvement in bull riding began at the age of 6 when you started riding calves, but your initiation to the sport more or less came about by default. Tell us about that.
Well, I was actually here, like I said, we were riding this is where I rode the first time. So my dad is doing a job on a hay shed here, and he's kind of a bit of the local handyman around, and he was doing a job on the hay shed here, and your fellas that taught me how to ride were here practicing, and they asked me, initially I learned how to ride a horse, and I seen them practicing, getting on some steers and stuff, and then they asked me did I want to do it. Well, I don't. When you're younger, obviously all you ever want to do is do stuff that the older kids are doing, and that's, as you can see, you look up to. So that's why I said, yeah, I'll do it, and they put me on some calves, and first time didn't last too long, but second one went pretty good, and it basically just went from there. I don't know why at 6 years of age you'd ever want to be, decide you want to ride calves, because I didn't grow up in the sport. That was my first initiation with it. So, but it was something I fell in love with, and it was always a challenge. And I guess that I was willing to stick at it, and I was really fascinated by how hard this sport really was.
And all these years on, the passion is still very much there.
Yeah, mate, it is. I wouldn't do it if I wasn't. I had a pretty good opportunity. I had a bad accident a few years back, and there was a few times there where you got to ask yourself whether you still want to do it, and because you can't compete at the highest level. Number one, if your heart's not in it. Number two, there's a chance in this sport more than what it would be normally to get hurt. So I just, it's something I still love doing, and it's more. It seems like when you're early in your career and everything, no injuries and stuff like that. It's not easier, but you can get along a lot easier now that I've had a few injuries, and now I've got a lot more niggling injuries. You got to work harder, and you got to sacrifice a lot more. So I definitely still love riding, and that's the reason why I'm still getting on the back of them.
What exactly is it that attracts you to the sport?
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is the challenge. The challenge of riding is what really keeps me going, because if it was easy and everybody could do it, and it got easier the better you went, I think it wouldn't be quite as challenging. So I love that about it, and everything's different. It seems like the bulls are getting a lot better, which means it's more difficult to stay on for 8 seconds, and you've got to kind of hone your techniques and stuff a lot more, and you got to work harder. For me, as I've got older, you obviously you got to work hard at it, and I'm while I continue to want to work hard at it, then I'll continue to ride.
As opposed to other sports like rugby league and soccer, where players attend training to hone their skills and brush up on their techniques, as bull riders, how do you guys practice?
Well, unfortunately, the only way to practice riding bulls is riding bulls. So that's where the danger is always there every single time you do it. You can practice and try and do a little bit of honing your skills on a mechanical device, or what we call drop barrels and stuff. But in the end, to get the real feeling of riding a bull, you got to ride a bull, and that's why it's so hard for a lot of kids to get into this sport, because the danger of it's always there, and it's only a matter of time before you've got to put yourself in the situation where you might get hurt. And that's the biggest thing about bull riding, is that there's no easy way to learn how to do it, and you find out really quickly, like I did when I was young, that there's going to be injuries in it. And it was actually the second time I rode. I was in these cattle yards here behind us, and went down through the yards and smashed into a post, and I don't know why I continued to want to do it, but yeah, I learnt real quick that you're not going to get through this sport without getting hurt too quick.
Before moving to America in 2003 to compete on the PBR circuit, you won 3 Australian bull riding titles. What sort of memories do you have of competing on the local Aussie circuit?
Well, a lot. I was lucky enough that we had an event, a rodeo here in Maitland every year, and got to compete there. And actually, as my career went on and had some success, we organised having a rodeo here in actually Morpeth, where I'm from, which is about a K up the road, and it was a success as well. I actually won that 2 years in a row, and but competing here in the Hunter Valley, and this is where I basically honed my skills in what I do. There was a lot of really good rodeos, and continues to be a lot of good rodeos. There's a lot of really good competitors and people that I looked up to a lot, and still do look up to, that taught me what it takes to be a bull rider. And to compete at the highest level. So I always had the drive to do it, but it's something that I had to give up a lot of stuff to go to America and try and see whether I was good enough. And everyone does that. That's on a world stage. They've got to give up a lot of stuff and sacrifice a lot. But there's a lot of really good memories from riding around here in not only the Hunter Valley but New South Wales. And it's something that I'm glad now that with my invitational in Newcastle that I can not only come back and ride here, but I can show everyone, what bull riding's all about, and at the level that I do it at, and do it, in a way where, it looks like it's professional, and that's what we've been trying to do.
Looking back on the season, how would you sum up your 2011 year?
Well, this year was by results, it hasn't been the best year that I've ever had, but I felt like I'm the fittest I'd been in, since 2009. And I'm in the best riding shape, and I'd been riding the best that I had. It's problem I've had a bit of an injury with my riding hand that's cost me a lot of times this year. I've done a lot of 7-second rides, and that have obviously it's an 8-second competition, so riding for 7 seconds doesn't win you anything. But they were all, a lot of them rides were to win the events, and obviously I didn't end up winning them. But I was still lucky enough, got to ride at the PBR World Finals, and I won a few good events all across the world. So I definitely, as an athlete, you don't really want to brag on a year that you don't really do anything too special, but obviously making the finals was still, there's a lot of other bull riders that never get a chance to do on that. So it was okay, but it's definitely something that's drove me to do a lot better and come back a lot better. I made it through the year without any injuries other than my hand, and I'm happy about that. I got to get on a lot of bulls, and that was a few years in my career where I kind of had to limit the amount that I was getting on just due to injuries and stuff and body soreness, but it didn't happen this year. I kind of rode through that this year, and everything's good, so I'm ready for 2012.
By your own admission, 2011 hasn't been the best year competing, though a real highlight I would imagine was when you returned home in July to win your own event at the Newcastle Entertainment Centre.
Yeah, that this year was my biggest win this year, just due to the fact that it's probably the hardest one to win, just because there's a lot of pressure on you because it's your namesake event. I mean, with me being there, everyone probably expects me to win anyway, and I hadn't done it in the past, so I kind of hadn't done the best that I'd ever wanted to there, but it was good this year. Everything, I felt like I was riding really good, and I'd had some good rides under my belt coming up to it, and I was confident when I came there. And you can obviously use that pressure against you, or you can use it to help you. And this year I seem to use all that pressure every time to help me, so to get motivated. So it was really good, and I'm glad. There's only one other person in the world that's ever won their own namesake event, and that's Troy Dunn. So I'm pretty happy that I could do that.
In the 9 years that you have been competing on the PBR circuit, what do you see as your greatest achievement?
Well, I think the greatest achievement was, the first time that I made the PBR finals, the first time that I ever went to Vegas, the first year that I'd competed in the United States. So it's definitely hard to do that because, obviously the very best bull riders in the world are there every week. But, and I've since done that 8 out of the 9 years. The only year I didn't make the finals was the year I got hurt. But obviously, finishing in the top 10 the first year was another big thing. There's been several bulls along the way that I've ridden that obviously hadn't been ridden by some of the bull riders that I think have ridden better than me. And there's been a lot of accomplishments that I've been happy with. But this is a sport where you got to step up to the plate every single time because no one cares about what you've done before this. So it's something you got to keep proving yourself in.
Over the past few years, you have developed into somewhat of a social media nerd, if I can use that term, with your own online bull riding program. Tell us about that.
Well, it's just something I started it because I wanted to just give myself a chance to speak in front of the camera a lot more. Moving into TV or the media after I finish riding bulls is something that I'm interested in, so I'd like to do that. So I started Ustream.tv is the website, and it's a live streaming website where you can stream yourself to, and people can jump on and watch it like it's a TV show or a blog or a video blog or a podcast, so to speak. So it's been a lot of fun, and it's a little, obviously it always can improve, and we're having fun doing it. So but yeah, Ustream.tv, the Brendon Clark Show is what we call it, and we try and do it every Tuesday night, 6 p.m. Pacific time in the United States, which is 11 or 12 o'clock here in Australia on the Wednesday. So it's fun, and along with my website and Facebook and Twitter and stuff like that. I mean, there's a lot. It's a perfect way to spread the word of bull riding, and that's what I use it for. And the more personalities our sport can grow, the better it's going to become. So hopefully, people think that I'm one of them people.
You're 31 years of age now. Does this sort of signify in some ways that retirement may not be far away?
Well, in our sport, you got to be prepared that retirement might be the next time I get on. So, but I feel like I'm gonna, ride until I don't really have the drive to actually keep getting on. So, it's hard to put a time frame on it. I feel like it'll be a couple more years, maybe another year or two, and then I might be able to just walk away and not do it. Obviously it's something where, because of the danger of the sport, you don't want to just do it half-heartedly, and it's not something you can just do on the weekends. It's something you got to live and breathe about. So retirement, I know I'm at the age where retirement is around the corner in my sport, so then I've got to start thinking about the next chapter in what I'm going to do.
You were quite the sportsman growing up. Not only did you excel at bull riding, but also athletics, rugby league and rugby union. Did you ever consider pursuing one of those sports over bull riding?
Yeah, I think I would have. I think rugby league would have been something I'd love to have been better at, or I could have. I feel like if bull riding had never came up, I feel like after going through my bull riding career and knowing what I've done and what I've had to sacrifice and the way that you got to work towards it, I feel like that would have been something that maybe if I put my mind to, I might have been good enough at. I feel like I was okay at it for the amount of time that I spent doing it. But obviously it was a lot of fun. Always got to play with good players. Always trained hard, and always because of the bull riding, and it was a lot of fun, and it's a rough sport too. But I think out of all of them, I loved athletics. And I loved playing rugby union. I feel like rugby union was more my game because I could run. I was pretty quick, and I loved to run like that in the game, but I never played enough of it to really know how to be good at it. But I think rugby league would have been something I would have. I've always got dreams of maybe, I could have been a good player, but who knows.
Outside of bull riding, how do you relax and spend your time?
Well, obviously, with the cowboy thing, I grew up riding horses and stuff, and that's something I like to do, is maybe train some horses and ride horses and rope a little bit, and I like to do outside of that, some wakeboarding, snowboarding in the winter time, different things like that. So it's definitely a life where I do something that's so rough. I always seem like I want to do something that's dangerous as well outside, and I need to start thinking like I don't need to do that. But there's not a lot of time outside of riding because I'm traveling so much. But obviously, I feel like I have a lot of fun by riding and training horses. So that's what I do the most of, because it doesn't, it gives me a chance to still kind of keep in shape for riding. So
long walks along the beach and yoga don't really entertain you?
No, there's not a lot. There's a few good beaches around where I live, but it gets too cold where I live there. So no, that's not really what I like to do.
Well, Brendon, thank you very much for your generous time this afternoon, and I wish you all the best for Tamworth.
Yeah, thanks, mate. Appreciate the time.